JBN, we keep you informed. Teen gunman outwitted by victim who pretended to also have a gun. The police on Tuesday charged 18-year-old Bernard Clark of Top Road, Little London in Westmoreland with illegal possession of a firearm and assault at common law. The police said that about 2:50 a.m. on Saturday, January 25, a man was walking along the roadway towards his house in Little London when Clark, who was armed with a firearm, allegedly pointed the gun at him and assaulted him. The man reportedly pretended that he too was armed with a gun and held on to his waistband. This reportedly resulted in Clark hesitating, leaving room for the man to escape. Clark was later pointed out to police and arrested. His court date will be announced at a later date. Policeman freed of murder charge. Police Constable Mark Grant was on Tuesday freed of murder in the Home Circuit Court. The 7-member jury deliberated for over an hour before returning a unanimous verdict of not guilty. At the trial, which began on March 11, the prosecution led evidence that on June 16, 2020, Grant shot and killed Devon DeLissa, who was of a Norman Road address in St. Andrew. It was alleged that the policeman confronted DeLissa and, after giving instructions to put his hands in the air, turned his M16 rifle on him and fatally shot the man in his back. In his defense, Grant's attorneys, Peter Champagne QC and Pierre Rogers, suggested that DeLissa was shot when, after putting his hands in the air, made a sudden movement by dropping one of his hands and reaching for his waistband. At that moment, DeLissa's back was turned to the policeman. It was argued that DeLissa then spun around suddenly with an object in his hand. After he was shot, the object turned out to be a Magnum tonic wine bottle. The lawyers argued that in such circumstances, the policeman fired, believing that DeLissa had a gun and was reaching for it to shoot him. In addressing the jury, Champagne urged them to consider that the incident happened at night and that the post-mortem report showed that DeLissa was shot to the side of his chest, consistent with him turning around. The trial was presided over by Justice Vivian Harris. Fear in Mandeville following COVID-19 death. As news spread that a 79-year-old Clarendon man who had tested positive for the novel coronavirus died just before being transferred from the Mandeville Regional Hospital on Wednesday, there was widespread fear and anxiety in the south central town. The streets were like that of a ghost town as citizens heeded calls from the government to stay at home as much as possible. One taxi driver operates to and from the hospital said that he was contemplating whether he should continue his job. Backside man, right now me feel like more than runway to home me a panic right now, especially since a one man got dead there now. Me really and truly definitely afraid, he said. Me run taxi, and even though me sanitize my car, right now with this what go happen, me really want runway. Me just don't sanitize my car, and me hear upon the radio about the death. Me not think me a come back a road tomorrow no? Definitely no, he said. A friend of the taxi operator, while anxious, was more philosophical. Me feel away, yes, but what fear ma go happen? Me have me little alcohol and me vitamin C when me take daily, he said. Right now more than drink a cold beer and relax my mind. But the bar them lock, so what me can do, said the friend who also asked not to be named. Another man argued that the time had come for the authorities to close ports of entry. From me hear about the death, me even more worried, and right now the government for us lock all ports of entry because the man recently traveled from New York. Me feel sorry for him family still, because on top of his death, the fact that he had the virus is worrying, he said. Another man who said he was on his way to the hospital likened the situation to a horror show. Everybody have to really think about this right now and be careful, because now over the hospital may I go, and if me couldn't go elsewhere, me wouldn't do that. This coming like a horror movie, he said. Church and fasting against evil as sanctuary burnt to the ground. Pastor Orville Powell of the Power and Authority of Jesus Ministry Church in Denby, Clarendon, was jolted from his sleep minutes after 2 on Monday morning with the news that the church was ablaze. The building has been burnt flat to the ground, destroying an estimated $2 million in equipment and appliances. Ironically, it happened on day 16 of the church's 40-day prayer meeting and 3 days of absolute fast, where they were seeking a breakthrough in the growth of the church, praying against the evil going on and for God to bless them so that they can make even more of an impact on the lives of the less fortunate. We have been carrying out a feeding program every Tuesday at the Mapen Health Center, and this has set us back, said Powell, who also shared that the church recently bought a brand new stove, which wasn't even taken out of the box yet. That too was destroyed in the fire. Regarding the perpetrators, Powell said he was leaving them in God's hands. Moving ahead, Powell said he'll be setting up a WhatsApp group where he can interact and pray with the members, and will be giving his sermons via Facebook Live for those who he can't reach directly. He is now making the appeal for assistance to get his church back up again, noting that they will need all the help they can get. We will need back our musical equipment and assistance to erect the structure once more, said Pastor Powell. Sniffer dogs helped police find 701 pounds of ganja. The police have reported the seizure of just over 700 pounds of compressed ganja with an estimated street value of $2.8 million at a wharf in Kingston. Reports from the Narcotics Division are that police were alerted to a container after Jamaica Constabulary Forces sniffer dogs raised an alarm about 12:30 a.m. on Sunday, March 15. The container, which was destined for an address in the United States of America, was seized. Following the finalization of logistic arrangements, it was emptied. During a subsequent search on Tuesday, March 17, a false compartment containing 236 parcels of ganja weighing 701 pounds was found. No one was arrested in connection with the find. The police are appealing to anyone who can assist in the investigation to share the information by contacting the Narcotics Division at 876-923-4576-7 or Crime Stop at 311. 15 left homeless after Clarendon fire. About 15 people have been left homeless following a fire on Hazard Drive in Maypen, Clarendon on Wednesday afternoon. Camille Davis, one of the victims, said that she was in a room when she heard her sister crying out. "It was then I saw the fire inside the room," she said. The blaze ravaged the 3 board houses in the yard, destroying appliances and the possessions of the occupants. Davis, however, managed to save some of her belongings. "My 2 older sisters lost everything, fridge, washing machine, everything destroyed at the fire," she said, adding that they will now need assistance. Councillor for the Maypen Division, Kenneth Davis, said that quick action by responders on the Maypen Fire Department prevented more houses from being destroyed. Davis, who is also the chairman of the Clarendon Poor Relief Committee, said already he has started to mobilize various agencies to assist the victims. Phillips to keep Zozos, kick SOEs if PNP takes power. The states of emergency SOEs imposed across half the island as part of a push by the government to reduce Jamaica's ballooning murder rate will not be extended if the People's National Party PNP, under the leadership of Dr. Peter Phillips, takes over state power after the next general election. The Zones of Special Operations, ZOZOs, a security measure developed and implemented by the Holness administration, would however remain in place under a PNP administration. The states of emergency go. They are not crime-fighting measures. We are intent on providing a crime plan, and we have highlighted all the elements that need to be there, declared Phillips. We have said that the states of emergency provisions in our constitution and in our laws were never intended as a long-term crime-fighting measure, he added, during a wide-ranging interview last week. However, Phillips, the PNP president, acknowledged that the ZOZO legislation, which provides a mixture of hard policing and social intervention strategies, could be useful in tackling the crime problem. There is scope for the ZOZO legislation to be used. There is also scope to look at some of the other provisions in law, he said. I have said on more than one occasion that we need to recognize that modern policing is all intelligence-led policing, that we need to build up our capacity. A general election is constitutionally due early next year, but it's been widely expected to be called later this year. However, the ongoing novel coronavirus outbreak factor into the timeline. In 2017, Jamaica recorded a total of 1,616 murders, including 342 in the parish of St. James. To help stop the bloodletting, an SOE was imposed in St. James in January 2018 by the Holness administration. At the end of 2018, murders nationally were slashed to 1,287, including 102 in St. James. But the security measure, which curtails the rights of citizens, came to a screeching halfway into January last year after the parliamentary opposition led by Phillips voted against an extension. Amid an upswing in murders across the island, including a slew of brazen daylight killings, an SOE was again imposed in St. James, along with Hanover and Westmoreland in April last year. Since then, SOEs were also imposed in St. Catherine and Clarendon, as well as the St. Andrew South and Kingston East police divisions. Despite the SOEs, Jamaica recorded a marginal increase in murders last year when 1,326 persons were killed. A total of 256 murders were recorded between January 1 and March 7 this year, a 4.5% increase over the comparative period last year. SOEs have been imposed in 8 of the 19 police divisions. 3 SOE areas have seen an uptick in murder year on year, but most serious and violent crimes have plunged. However, 256 people were slain up to March 7, 11 more than for the corresponding period last year. Holness, the Prime Minister, and members of his cabinet have insisted that the SOEs are working, but Phillips doubled down on his claim that they have failed and his criticisms of the way the crackdown has been utilized. It has become a symbolism to substitute for an action plan to fight crime. The fact that they have had it and extended it all over, but at the same time island-wide murders continue to rise, there is a clear sense that it is not working. The PNP president, who is also a former Minister of National Security, insisted, too, that the operations being conducted by the security forces as part of the SOEs are not being guided by effective intelligence. The absence of effective intelligence is seen in the fact that even when the SOEs are declared, there are very few detention centers, and the bulk of the detainees are people arbitrarily arrested by the police and charged. If you look at it, a lot of the violence producers continue to operate beneath the radar, so to speak, because there are no detention orders being issued for them, all of which reflect the flaws from intelligence gathering. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember, subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.